In Jerusalem's bustling streets, a shoemaker worked diligently, repairing sandals and shoes for the Passover festivities. His hands moved skillfully, stitching and shaping the leather. Nearby, a humble baker prepared unleavened bread, his face lit by the warm glow of the oven. The chief priests met in secret, their faces stern and resolute as they planned to capture Jesus. A dark presence filled Judas's home, signifying his betrayal. Judas woke up, controlled by a strange force, his mind cloudy and confused. He slipped out of his house under the cover of night, his footsteps echoing through Jerusalem's deserted streets. An owl's silent gaze fell upon the city, its piercing eyes watching as if witnessing the unfolding events. The high priest's door creaked open, revealing a plan to hurt Jesus. Judas touched silver coins, sealing his betrayal. Judas and the elders finalized their plan to capture Jesus, with the temple guards ready to follow orders. Meanwhile, Jesus gave Peter and John a task: to find a man with a water jar in the city. They looked confused but followed instructions. In the busy city, they searched for the man and finally saw him approaching. The sight of the man brought them joy. The man's face also lit up with a warm smile, as if he had been expecting them. As they followed the man, the bustling city streets gave way to a quieter neighborhood. Soon they arrived at a beautiful building, and the owner of the house welcomed them with open arms, his face radiating hospitality. The upper room was a haven of elegance, with beautifully arranged tables and soft golden lighting. The atmosphere was tranquil, filled with anticipation, prepared by the disciples' careful hands. Jesus arrived first, waiting for his disciples. He looked around at the different entrances, expecting to see them arrive. As the disciples enter the room, each brings their unique energy. Peter opens the door, flashing a warm smile as he greets Jesus. Andrew follows closely, walking in with his hand on the door and a gentle smile. Next, James bursts in, his eyes shining with excitement as he smiles broadly. John enters with a subtle smile, his attention focused on waving at the others. Philip smiles quietly, still holding the door, while Bartholomew walks in with a radiant grin, his teeth sparkling. Thomas enters with a calm demeanor, smiling softly as he takes his place. Simon waves enthusiastically, his smile infectious, and Thaddeus follows with a serene smile, his hands clasped together. Jude smiles and waves warmly. Matthew enters quickly smiling, and finally, Judas enters with a somber expression, his eyes clouded with sadness. Jesus addressed his disciples, his voice filled with emotion. "This is the last time I'll be sharing this meal with you," he said, his words hanging in the air. He took the cup, gave thanks, and said, "Take this and divide it among yourselves." As they shared the cup, Peter sipped from it with reverence, his eyes locked on Jesus. John drank with a serene expression, his face calm. James had his with his eyes closed, as a lot runs through his mind. Judas drank with a hint of guilt, his gaze avoiding Jesus. After they had shared the cup, Jesus took the bread, lifted it up, and broke it. "This is my body, given for you," he said. "Do this in remembrance of me." As they ate, their minds raced with questions and reflections. Their faces reflected a mix of curiosity and deep thought. As Jesus revealed, "One of you will betray me," the disciples' reactions were stark. Peter's face contorted in shock and denial, his voice rising in protest. "Lord, it's not me, is it?" John looked crestfallen, his eyes wide with sorrow and concern. Andrew's face contorted in shock, his hand instinctively covering his eyes as if searching for clues. Meanwhile, Judas's face remained downcast, his eyes avoiding the others, shame etched on his features. Jesus went ahead as he cautioned Peter to be vigilant, but Peter insisted he'd never abandon him. Jesus replied, "Before the rooster crows 3 times, you will deny me." As Jesus finished speaking, Judas grew uneasy, glancing around cautiously to ensure no one was watching. He carefully slipped out of the upper room. A lone moon hung low in the night sky, casting a silver glow over the darkness. The disciples gathered in small groups, each group with their torch to illuminate their way in the darkness, eager to accompany Jesus to the prayer site. they fell into step behind him, their torches casting flickering shadows. As they walked, their faces illuminated by the torchlight. They never knew the task ahead of them and what was about to happen. As they reached the site, Jesus addressed them. "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow. Stay here and keep watch." He then withdrew to pray. Jesus started praying to God, his heavenly Father. Blood-like sweat dripped from his pores. Meanwhile, the 3 disciples slept, each in a different pose. One slumped forward, another lying on his side, and the third with his head tilted back. Jesus' face contorted in anguish, tears of blood streaming down his cheeks as he wrestled with the weight of what lay ahead. An angel appeared, offering comfort and strengthening him in his time of need. Suddenly, the Roman armies emerged, their torches and lanterns lighting up the darkness. Judas, positioned among them, stepped forward and approached Jesus. With a kiss, he betrayed him. Jesus asked, "Do you betray me with a kiss?" The Roman guards closed in, capturing Jesus. They took him away to the high priest. Peter followed at a distance. High priest said to him, "Tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God." "You have said so," Jesus replied. Meanwhile, Peter sat among the crowd, warming himself by the fire. As a servant girl approached him, "You are with Jesus, aren't you?" Peter denied. A little later, someone else saw him and said, "You also are one of them." About an hour later, another asserted, "Certainly this fellow was with him, for he is a Galilean." Peter denied Jesus for the 3rd time. Just as he was speaking, the rooster crowed. Then Peter remembered, and he went outside and wept bitterly. The men who were guarding Jesus began mocking him. Jesus' eyes were tied. Early in the morning, Judas felt remorse. So he threw the money into the temple and left to where he ended it all. Chief priests and the elders said, "It is against the law to put this into the treasury, since it is blood money." So they decided to use the money to buy the potter's field as a burial place for foreigners. The chief priests and the elders of the people bound Jesus and handed him over to Pilate, the governor. So Pilate asked Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "You have said so," Jesus replied. Pilate sent him to Herod, who was also in Jerusalem at that time. When Herod saw Jesus, he was greatly pleased. He plied him with many questions, but Jesus gave him no answer. He sent Jesus back to Pilate after much humiliations. Pilate found no basis charge against him and decided to free him, but the people demand for him to be crucified. Pilate's wife sent words to him through his servant, not to have anything to do with the death of Jesus. Pilate released Barabbas as the people demanded. Pilate washed his hands, signifying that he has no hands in the death of Jesus. The guards took Jesus away. A soldier held up a crown of thorns, its sharp spikes glistening. The crown of thorn was placed on Jesus' head. Jesus was flogged, and as he carried his cross to Golgotha, a large number of people followed him, including women who mourned and wailed for him. Jesus turned and said to them, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me. Weep for yourselves and for your children," carrying his cross. Weakened, Jesus fell, but he continued on, speaking to the women of Jerusalem, urging them to weep for their own children. As Jesus struggled, Simon of Cyrene was forced to carry the cross. Many cried out in sorrow for Jesus, while others mocked him. At Golgotha, the soldiers inspected their tools, admiring the nails and hammer they would use to crucify Jesus. Then, Jesus was nailed to the cross, which was raised high. Jesus hung on the cross, writhing in agony. He twisted his head from side to side, his body straining against the pain. Each movement seemed to intensify his suffering, his anguish palpable. As he hung there, suffering intensely, the soldiers divided his clothes. Despite the pain, Jesus cried out and breathed his last. Darkness fell, and the temple curtain tore. A soldier confessed, "Truly this was the Son of God." The next day, a man named Joseph of Arimathea requested Jesus' body from Pilate. Jesus was laid in a tomb, and the soldiers carried the large stone sealed the entrance of the tomb. Angels surrounded Jesus in the tomb. Meanwhile, the soldiers guarded the tomb from the outside. But on the 3rd day, Jesus resurrected. He left the grave. Mary Magdalene and another Mary was seen going to visit Jesus to anoint Jesus' body with spices. In a separate moment, the disciples huddled together, their faces etched with despair. Their expressions conveyed hopelessness, loneliness, and fear as they mumbled among themselves. But at the tomb, when they arrived, an angel told them, "He is risen, he is alive." The women was terrified of what they saw. The women rushed to tell the disciples, with fear still gripping them. They reached the disciples' door, their hands trembling as they tried to open it. The disciples' faces reflected shock, fear, and uncertainty as they heard the latest news. Peter ran to the tomb, finding the grave white clothes Jesus left behind. He was wailing and crying. Meanwhile, the guards, terrified by the resurrection, reported all that happened at the tomb to the chief priests. The priests gathered in a huddle, directed the guards on what to do. The chief priests bribed them to spread lies about the disciples stealing Jesus' body. Later, Jesus appeared to the disciples, filling them with joy and excitement. They jubilated, thrilled to see their risen Lord. "Yes, he is risen, O death, where is your victory? O death, where is thy sting?" 1 Corinthians 15:55.